Now, I am not as you guys know, I'm not um, super Godzilla fan, and kaiju fans. I mean, I guess they're a branch of weebism, right? They'd have to be, but man, they get a little crazy, and I know some of you guys are like that in the chat. So let me just admit, I am not somebody that grew up on Godzilla movies. I haven't seen all the movies or anything like that, and I'm probably I really like the recent movies, but to be honest, I'm probably the kind of Godzilla fan or King Kong fan that you guys hate, because no, I didn't watch all of the old ones. I don't know anything about the old, all the movies and all of the decades of it. I'm talking about the current MonsterVerse movie, from 2014's Godzilla, which I actually really loved. As I said before, I get people, if you were like a major Godzilla fan and there was finally a new Godzilla movie coming out and you're like, is he ever going to appear? When's he going to appear? I get that, but I love the movie. I thought it was a great human story, really great metaphor, of Godzilla. I thought the story worked well. And I've really liked the MonsterVerse, how they've developed it. And I've seen everything. I haven't seen the what's it called, the TV show, Monarch. I haven't seen the Monarch show, and I haven't seen the new movie. I skipped the Monarch show, as I said in the previous stream, because it's a modern day TV show. It's on Apple, TV, which again has a strike against it. But some people have said that there's some decent stuff in it. So I don't know. Maybe I'll give it a shot. I have read the tie-in comics though, and I've read the novelizations. I mean, I've really liked this universe. And honestly, what really did it for me was Kong Skull Island. Growing up, Godzilla was like, I knew of Godzilla, but whatever. Other than the Blue Oyster Cult song, I wasn't really drawn to him, his movies or as a character or anything. But I always thought King Kong was cool, just because it's King Kong. It's American folklore, and there's actually in Virginia here, it's in Winchester, Virginia. We have to drive quite a bit to get there, but there's a little roadside attraction called Dinosaur Land, and it's really fun. It's a really great little attraction. It's one of those kitschy old time, highway roadside attractions, and it's just stayed there. And you pay your money and you go back and walk through this, nice enclosure, and they've got all these huge dinosaur statues, and it's so cool. I took Sound Engraver and my daughter there a couple weeks ago again, because we like to go every so often. It's so much fun. You can take pictures of everything. But then one of the last statues they have is a big King Kong, and he's got his hand out there, and you can walk up the steps and like sit in his hand, and you can get a picture from a certain perspective. So I got a picture of my daughter in King Kong's hand. I got a picture of Sound Engraver in King Kong's hand. It was pretty cool. So yeah, I always loved King Kong for that. I mean, growing up in that statue and stuff. But just that was what got me into it. Kong Skull Island. I watched the 70s remake of Kong that they did growing up. Now I was, this was in the 80s and I was watching it on TV. I thought that was really cool. Of course, I eventually watched the original King Kong, the Universal King Kong, which predated the first Godzilla movie. I think it was 1933. I watched that when I was in high school film classes, taking a lot of film classes and studying film. And then watched Peter Jackson's King Kong. So I just love the character. I love the fact that, I don't see him as one of the Universal monsters in terms of if you were going to do a shared Universal monster verse, like the Dark Universe or whatever. I don't think you should bring King Kong into that. I think it's a different type of monster, different type of universe. But I do appreciate the fact that King Kong, like the Universal monsters, does exhibit that pathos. He is, on the one hand, kind of the villain, but then he's somebody you really empathize with and sympathize with. And of course, just that classic, one of the greatest lines in film, at the end of the original King Kong film, when they take him down, he falls from the building, and the guy says, no, it wasn't the guns. It was beauty that killed the beast. And that's, because he was going after Andero and stuff. And that's just such a great line. And it just shows how much you can really put into a story like that, how much they can serve as a metaphor and archetype and all this kind of stuff. And, then Godzilla developed in Japan, and a lot of ink has been spilt on that, very deep and resonant reasons for that, because of the whole atomic, and the bomb and stuff like that. And so there's definitely those tensions and anxieties that Japan was working out, existing in a world after the bomb. I mean, my goodness. And Godzilla served as a good, focal point, kind of symbol for atomic age damage And so on the very basic level, you know, and these are the first two, I'm kind of, you know, figuring them as the first two kaiju. I don't know historically what you would say is technically the first kaiju or whatever when it comes to films and whatnot. Mighty Joe Young, maybe, I don't know. But, or maybe there's other Japanese stuff, but they're, you know, and symbolically, you know, kind of culturally, they're sort of the first two to really be the ones that got things going. And there is this sort of very basic, at the basic foundational appeal, there's the horror appeal. Oh my gosh, a giant monster, you know, and that's never left. That's always there to some degree. And some people just like that, or some people primarily go or like the characters in films for that. But it's, that's there. So you start there. And it is, I mean, you know, you think about a giant monster, you know, got Rampage in the background. I'll talk about that in a second too, because that's a whole other kind of appeal for it. Studio Super, thank you for the $9.99. Said, I got friends that say, how can you like a giant monkey over a dinosaur that shoots freaking lasers? Or I respond, sorry, I'm not easily impressed with a light show. Saw the 1933 film when I was 5. Yeah, I mean, that was great. Now, I'm not like, if you ask me which one I'd prefer, I would definitely prefer King Kong, but I'm not like, you know, anti-Godzilla or anything. I get the appeal. I get, you know, and I like the Godzilla movies that came out. I liked Godzilla. I like King of Monsters. You know, thought they were great. So, and I was rooting for Godzilla during King of Monsters. I was like, yeah, or even in the original or the 2014 film, I was rooting for him. So, but yeah, I've never seen, and I know you guys will say, oh, but it's in this one, the such and such film. I've never seen or known Godzilla to exhibit the kind of pathos from humans, from widespread culture, let me say, that King Kong does. And I think part of it is because King Kong's a primate. You've got the iconic story of the Beauty and the Beast aspect in that film, which to my knowledge has never been in King Kong. I don't think it's never been like a woman, you know, that he sort of falls for. You know, it's just, it's different because you're dealing with a big reptile, you know, which is great. It's got its own you know, appeals and stuff like that. And you can do some things with the Godzilla stories that you can't necessarily do with Kong, obviously. But I think that's why, one of the reasons why I would be drawn a little bit more to Kong if I had to choose. But, you know, love them both. You know, the stuff they've been doing recently, it's good stuff. John Gonzalez, thank you very much for the $5 super chat. You said, I've always been more of a Godzilla guy. Okay, so the other side of the spectrum. But it's awesome that we live in a universe with him and Kong on screen twice in history, thrice. Yeah, because they did a first. Was it a Toho film? That was the first Godzilla Kong, I think. And then of course the recent one and then the second one. So yeah, good stuff. You said, yeah, I'm one of those who only prefer the giant monster rather than them being portrayed as heroes or even anti-villains. There's too much loss of life just for them existing, even when they're quote unquote heroes. Yeah, I get that. And that's sort of one of the basic, as I was saying, the foundational appeal of them, because you think about being in a city, any kind of civilization, any kind of society, and then this giant Titan-like creature, as you say, just walking, they're going to cause damage. And it's such a stand-in for either an atomic bomb, you know, a natural or a man-made war, or natural disasters. I mean, it's such a great stand-in for the things that we fear. We're civilized people. We've built civilization. You know, we're not nomadic tribes, you know, living in caves or anything like that. You know, we've evolved into civilizations, and so that's it's part of our daily life, and we're constantly reminded how tenuous the things that we rely on for our daily reality and our daily concept of living, how tenuous it is when the natural disaster comes, when a hurricane comes or a tornado comes, or you know, flood waters come, or wherever, you know, depending on where you live. Or war, you know, we're lucky in the United States, other than Pearl Harbor and 9/11, to have never really had any kind of major attack on U.S. soil. But plenty of countries out there are deal with this kind of devastation all the time, from even man-made war and whatnot. So these, you know, giant monster creatures, and you think it's kind of the ultimate recontextualization. This is what good mythology should do. It should, good stories, good fiction should do. It should recontextualize our daily struggles. As I've said before, our fears, our cultural, whatever. It should recontextualize all of that. So, the giant monster, coming into your city or your home or your town or whatever is a great example of that. And it doesn't always have to be. I mean, hey, I love the Iron Giant, and that's very much not a horrific giant creature film or whatever. But there is that, just the spectacle of it too. I mean, I grew up with those Clifford the Red Dog, children books and stuff, and the friendly dragons, and stuff like that. So there's that kind of thing. Okay, so that's the basic level, the horror of it.